Noel Scully. I got involved with the club around the mid-70s. Originally involved in the running of the seven-a-side competition, which used to take place over about 3 weeks or a month every summer for a cup that was called the John O'Brien Memorial Cup, and it was named in honour of the father of Seamus O'Brien, one of the founder members of the club. But I can remember as a teenager going up to St. Vincent's when Seamus and Mick Riley and Paddy Kelly and Jim Bennett and Malachy McNulty and a whole lot more of them, Danny Timmins, a lot more of them were playing with the original team. They started up in St. Vincent's. I can remember Vincent's being ringed, thronged with people all the whole way around the pitch, and Sean Delaney, who was the treasurer then, Sean going around at half time with a cap, getting a few bob, people to throw money into the cap, you know, to keep the club going, you know. I can remember those times, but I wasn't involved with them, as I say, until it came into the mid-70s, and then early 80s, Seamus and Pat Rogers sort of ran the first schoolboy team in the club, and I got involved at that stage then, really more concentrated, when we'd have the street leagues and we'd pick teams then to go play in the Kilkenny District League. So at that stage then I was on the committee, and shortly after that then I became a secretary, and was involved then with the schoolboys up to youth level. We had a pretty successful youth team at that time, but the youths by and large at that time, I can remember every year we go in from under 13 upwards, and we always did quite well with the youth, you know. I'd always win a cup or a league or a shield or something like that. So from there it evolved to getting involved with the first team, and I was there with them for a good number of years, and like everything, it has its cycle, you know. You do it for so long, just like players, and you know, when they get married and things like that, like, you know, the commitment isn't as what it was. And then as you get older as well, you know, you sort of drop off and you leave it to the younger generation to sort of to take up the mantle, as it were, you know.
Yeah.
So that's basically how I started.
What would be your earliest memory of Portlaoise AFC?
Well, the earliest, as I can say, I can remember going up to St. Vincent's in the late 60s and seeing the lads. That would have been the original team. They used to play sort of like the lead strip, an all white strip at the time, you know, and they'd be playing teams from Dublin and that, you know, and there used to be some crackers of games up there. And
you mean St. Vincent's, the hospital?
Yes, the hospital ground. On the upper end of that was the pitch.
I know it.
And I mean, like, facilities then, they were nowhere near what they are now today. Like, I mean, at the moment, like, we find dressing rooms in the clubhouse down here, but up there the lads would come up, and those who had a car would take out in their car. There was a little shed up the far end where they kept the lime and the stuff for marking the pitches, and on wet days the lads would go in there to tug out, you know. That's where they are, tug out under the tree, and that's how sort of rough it was at the time, you know. But they're the first memories of it, and I remember some cracking games up there, particularly with Dublin teams in the cups and that, like, you know. And they had a very good side at that stage as well too, and they were a bit unlucky in that some good cup runs, and a bit unlucky, you know, they didn't win the league title, maybe one or two cups. But I think it was a fledgling sort of time, like, for the lads, and there was one or two just sort of running the whole show. I'd say had the backup that's available today, you know, it would have been a hell of a lot, you know, beneficial to them, you know. But they hadn't at that stage. But they had a very talented team. There's some great players. They'd be my earliest memories. There's no one match now that would stand out in my mind, really, you know, from that period. But when you're speaking to some of the lads who was involved in playing at that time, they probably will remember something, and we can use that then.
Do you remember who got you involved with Portlaoise AFC, or was it just a school thing, or?
It was, I suppose, from going up there, and a lot of my friends were playing football as well too, and then sort of I was away for a few years from 69 to 72, and when I came back then after that, sort of got involved with some of the lads, not on a full-time basis originally, just now and again. You'd be at the games, you give a hand out, or you do, do something for them. But then that sort of evolved to getting really involved with them. Like, it's just mainly it was my friends and that, like, from Marion Place, the lads that used to play on it from Marion Place with a lot of them, it's not really.
Is Marion Place near Marion Avenue?
Marion Avenue, it's the same place. Marion Avenue is the same place. And there was a good few of the lads up there, like I said, you had mentioned there, Pat Rogers, Martin Carroll, Mick Carroll, Mick Rogers, just fellas up there like who would have been Tony Rogers as well would have been involved, and that was basically it. That was basically it. There was no at that stage. There was no, as I said, the schoolboys and the leagues within the town didn't come until sort of the early 80s. So there was no structure at that level really to get involved. So what we used to do, say Marion Avenue, we'd have a soccer team, and we might go play Summerhill. And indeed, I remember one time we went to Mount Rat to play Mount Rat, So that was sort of it. It was an ad hoc sort of procedure, and as such, you wouldn't have been playing sort of under the banner of Portlaoise AFC, No. Although some of the lads would have been playing with them, So that was what was sort of happening throughout the town that time, And there was other. Dublin Road had a team, Green Road had a team, Mount Rat Road, Grattan Street, and there'd be always a bit of rivalry there between them. You'd arrange a match,
So you played?
I did on and off, but I said not really because say full season type stuff, because the teams were sort of settled. But when we set up the third team. In and around the mid 80s, early to mid 80s, that we had found ourselves here where we had a first team and a second team, and we would have 6 or 7, maybe sometimes 10 players spare. They weren't getting the game, so we saw the necessity for setting up a third team. So with the St. Vincent's people as well, between the two of us. They hadn't enough to have a team of their own, so between the two of us we amalgamated, and we had what we call Portlaoise C, which was the third team. So I was involved in the setting up in that, and I played with them as well, up and down, and that was sort of the extent of it,
What would be your favourite memory or your best memory of playing with Portlaoise? In those early years.
The early years. There isn't sort of anything that sticks out like from the early years. There were years that weren't so successful in the club. That sort of way, and you had sometimes you had to get a team together for a Sunday morning. Like you might be travelling with just a bare 11. So, but there was cup successes like in the Counties Cup back in '82 and that, the final was played and I think it was over in Mount Rat, and that was a good day but not really too many stick out in my mind from those days. Much more sort of in the latter days. More in the latter days.
Right. So would you have been involved with bringing the team down here and turning it to Portlaoise AFC?
I don't really know what you're getting at. Not as
like, would you have, set up the team Portlaoise AFC down here on the Mount Malloch Road?
Oh well, that's when the committee at the time, when they bought the grounds down here. We were playing, as I say, up in St. Vincent's, and then for a period we went actually to Ballybrittis to play. And going back to the earlier years, further and further back, the lads played up in Kilminchie originally. And then in Brophy's Field, which is near the Guards Barracks, which is gone now. That's sort of where the lads sort of got together originally, back there in the late 50s and early 60s. But it was those lads that sort of founded Portlaoise AFC. when I was involved at the time, when the land was bought here around '82, this land was bought here, and we had to get the land ready for put a pitch on it and pick stones off it and do all of that, But the club was already there at that stage, It was only a matter of we had a home now, we had a base, for some
base operation, exactly.
So that was really how this place evolved, because it was at the stage where you had to get somewhere to play, because you didn't know what the future was. We're only tenants in St. Vincent, so you didn't know what the future was there. So you had to go and get something, and it was done. And we have what we have today. As a result.
After you finished, I know you said you only played on and on.
Yeah.
But after you finished playing, did you remain involved in the club?
Yes, and I still am to this day. That's it was, as I say, I was secretary, and and involved with the club, with the day-to-day running of the club, for secretary for about 6-7 years, and then been on the committee and that for a good number of years, and trustee of the club now as well.
Yes.
So I have been involved, since those.
I suppose, would you say Portlaoise AFC is a big part of your life?
Well, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because I'm involved in possibly only one other sort of association, and I try to get down here to see the games whenever I can, and I like to keep in touch with what's happening in the club and help out, wherever I can. So yes, it would be. Yeah.
Would you say that being a member of the club has impacted your life in a good way, bad way? Not really.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, it has to be, because the amount of friends that you have as a result of it, and the goodwill that you get from sort of people in the community, for looking after, especially for looking after the kids teams, boys and girls, definitely, there's no question about it. I'd advise anyone to get involved if they had the time,
That's good. Is there any one game that would stand out, maybe even when you weren't playing in the 80s and 90s?
There would be, as I said here, there would be from around that period. I suppose when I was involved with the youths, as I say, we were reasonably successful at the schoolboy levels, coming up along through the Kilkenny League, and then we played in Leinster Youth Football, and that was a good side. That was the side that sort of brought on 5 or 6 players that went to play with the first team. Some of them that went to play through the cup run here that we had, the big FAI Cup run that we had, which this year is the 25th anniversary of. There's probably one game. There's few games from that time. We won the cup final against St. Peter's, a very good St. Peter's of Athlone in Tullamore, and that game, both teams were pretty evenly matched, and that game has. Sometimes you'd call them free goals. Athlone scored first. The guy practically hit the ball from the middle of the field and went over Jaredon's head and goal and into the net. And that was the one. There was no finesse in the build-up or anything like that, cutting this off. And it was just he hit the ball and went over Jared into the net, and that's it. We were 1-0 down. And then I can remember Christy Conroy was playing left back, and Christy found himself then sometime later on in the game, just inside their half, 5 or 6 yards in their half, and out near the line, over our half line, 5 or 6 yards into their half, and out near the line. And to date, he'd still tell you he meant it, but to me it was a cross-come goal, because it just caught the keeper and went over the keeper and into the back, and it was 1-1. And as I said to you, to see the 2 goals, they said there were 2 free goals, but it was very evenly tight game between the 2 of them. There was no further scoring. There was no further score in extra time, and then Jaredon saved every penalty that was took at him.
Very good.
In the extra time. I don't know whether there was 3 or 3 penalties, whatever it was. He stopped the 3 of them, and we won it on penalties. But prior to that, in the run to that, I think we played Clara in the quarter. I think it was the quarter final, and I remember it was a bitter cold day. and January or sometime, and we were to go over and play him in Clara, and I got a phone call that morning to say that no, the Clara pitch was unplayable. We'd go to Kilbeggan. It was Scally's field in Kilbeggan, so I've never been there before. Anyway, we eventually got there from the directions, and it was literally a field on a hill like that, you know. It was an incline, you know. And the day it was bitterly cold, and there was sort of, when the game got going, there was sleet. Really was. Now how the players like stuck it on the pitch now, you know, to this day
it's tough going.
It was tough going, very tough going. But on top of that, I think the lads, we had as I said, I 2 or 3 of the players, and who were either playing or on the first team panel. I think Ger was playing with the first team, and the other 2 were in the panel, and they were playing a pretty important either a league game or a cup game the next day. So the manager of the first team, Christy Cahill, asked me not to use the 2 guys. So I had a good squad, so that's fair enough, and I didn't use the 2 lads, you know. But because of what I'm saying to you, with the slope on the field, there's always sticks in my mind. Like we were playing uphill, which was tough, you know, against that breeze and sleet, and you know, we were actually 4-0 down. 4-0 down, I'd say maybe after 30-35 minutes we were 4-0 down. And our saving grace that day, we weren't to know it at the time, was Brian Bowen came in from the right wing, got into the edge of the box, beat his man and put the ball across the keeper and into the far corner. So we went in 4-1 at half time, you know. Nice. And that goal did it. So we won the second half 3-0. So we got a 4-4 draw. So we got out there on a bitter cold day, and then we got them in the replay down here, and we beat them 7-2 or something like that, you know. So the like of that, you know, that sticks in my mind from the youths. There's plenty of games from the seniors from the first team that would I can remember second team games, some great tussles with St. Peter's and ourselves. St. Peter's were they were a prison club. Yes. And they played a lot of the lads that played with them would have played with us, and there was ding-dong battles, you know. There were sort of a rivalry, you know, the local derby between them. But going back to the first team, yeah, the year we won the league, it was great memories from that. We won two leagues back to back, first ever leagues that came to the club. And then there was the FAI Cup run, but prior to the FAI Cup, we were playing in the FAI Intermediate Cup. And in the Intermediate Cup, it can be drawn against anyone, but we were drawn against Lusk down here, and it was a 2-2 draw. And then we went up to play them, and it was 2-2 after normal time up above there, and then John Loughlin got the winner, and we won it 3-2. That was a great day, because the winning that game got us into the FAI Senior Cup proper draw for the next year, you know.
Brilliant.
And then we came back then after that, we came down, we were drawn away in the next round to Middleton, down in Cork. We went down there for the weekend. We went behind in that game, and I didn't start. I remember John Loughlin scored a penalty to equalise it, and we got out there with a draw. And we beat them then up here 4-1 in the replay. So at that stage we were in the quarter-final, the last 8 in Ireland, and we were playing against St. Joseph Spies Dublin team. And it was probably the one thing that sticks in my memory is, we lost the game 2-1, but we didn't play well in losing the game. Had we played our normal game that day, I'm sure we would have beaten them, but we didn't. It didn't happen. It was just one of those days. We had an off day, and it was 1-1, and it was sort of the manner in which we lost it too, because it was 1-1. And I think there was literally only a couple of minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes to go, and they got a corner, and I don't know that they had any other corners in the game. Yeah. And the ball was put in wherever the 6-yard box, and this guy met it with his head, a bullet of a header, and there was nothing Gerard could do in goal, and that was, we literally had no time to come back, you know. So it was sort of the manner in that sort of sticks out, like, you know, one of the games, although we didn't win it, it's in the memory, it's in the memory.
Do you have any funny stories, off days, something weird happening during the game?
Not so much, although there must be, and I can't remember, and probably when you're speaking to some of the other guys, that they will probably come up with some, maybe that I was there and I'd forgotten them. I do remember one time, that game I mentioned when we were up in Lusk, and I mentioned Sean Delaney earlier on, who was the treasurer. Sean was up at that game, and there was a great crowd up at that game, and I was down on the line, and after, as I said to you, I think it was 2-2, and I think after each time we scored, Sean used to run in on the pitch and he was jumping up and down, and the linesman who knew me, I knew the linesman at the time, he came down and he says, look, but he says, if you don't control him, stop him from running into the pitch, you have the field, and it's a big day for the club, and I don't want that to happen, and then I had a word with Sean, and after everything was grand, and then, as I said, the game went on anyway, and so when we scored the winner then, I don't know where he came from, but he was in on the pitch like again, that sort of way. He was a sort of a character you couldn't contain. Not really anything else sort of sticks out in my mind, like, As I remember John Loughlin, who scored the goal, saying to me after, he says, after I scored, he said, and I turned around, he says, Sean Delaney was hugging me, he was closer to me than any of the lads on the pitch were, that sort of way. So where he came out of to get in there, I couldn't tell you,
You've been with Portlaoise AFC for a good while. Good part of the history. Yeah. The club is working towards all teams getting of all age levels wearing the same shirts. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd be in favour of that, of course. The green and white was traditionally the colour of the club, and it's nice to see all the schoolboys and schoolgirls go out in the same colour, togs, and the whole kit. So it's the identity, so when you go out there, everyone knows it's Portlaoise, it's the green, so I'd be totally always be in favour of that.
Yeah, sounds good. I suppose you have a bit of a family in Portlaoise.
Yeah.
Will any of them be involved in Portlaoise AFC?
Not so much now. But going back, I had a brother or two that used to play a bit of football. Yeah. But not so much now. They're all married and they're living away from town. But I have a brother now who's young lad is playing, with Mount Melick and that, and he's involved in the emerging talent and that, so that's basically the involvement there.
I suppose if you could wish for 3 things for Portlaoise AFC, what would they be?
Well, the biggest thing I'd like to see happening would be we're sort of hampered here to a degree with space,
I've seen kind of being surrounded by
exactly. If we get more land, that place now next door, we're any tenants there, But we'd have good plans to develop the place down here if you did get land, and as you can see, the all weather is going down there now at the moment, but for the future, that would be the main thing, because we could really sort of have a complex down there, down here, everyone would be proud of it, the whole town would be proud of it, not alone the people in the club, but the whole community. The academy here is being run very well by Sylvia G and Maura Brown and other people. That does very, very well. I think that's sort of expanding from year to year, and there again where we need the sort of the land to cater for the kids, and that comes back into it as well. So I mean, the expansion of that, and then as I mentioned there, the emerging talent is another thing, but that's sort of been run by the FAI. It's a scheme to bring on the cream of all the leagues, and bring them together, and maybe at the end of the day for those chaps and girls who play, like, you know, you'll be talking about maybe international level, you know, to make it that far, like, you know, you'll be bringing them up against the best of the best in Ireland, you know. It's like, as it is, we have, I'd say, 6 or 7 between women and fellas who have represented our country here in the club, you know. So yeah, with the development of the academy and the emerging talent and that, so maybe that's a number that will increase in the future. You know. So there are some things that I'd like to see happening, you know. But as I said, the main one, like, there's brilliant people running the club, involved in the club, coaches, people doing voluntary work and that. Absolutely brilliant people. But the main thing I'd like to see is just get some more land to provide, you know, more space for the kids to play and bring on the future generation of kids, you know, boys and girls, you know.
Especially with a massive population.
Yeah, absolutely, which is growing the whole time. And you can see it there this morning, like, you know, down there, the amount of kids that's out there, and they're of all races, you know, that sort of, and it's great to see them and the integration, they're friends with one another, and it's like you were saying there earlier on, they're friends for life, like, you know. And you have them down here, you have them playing, and you know, you're teaching them to become better persons and better teenagers and ultimately better adults.
Better people.
Yeah, better people, exactly, you know. So hopefully that will continue. During that period, with the cup run and that, it was managed by Christy Senior, and Christy deserved a lot of credit for the success they had, because when Christy came on board, he organised sponsorship for jerseys and ties and boots, stuff like that. So as the team went out in the team colours every Sunday, he organised the training, he organised the coaches for going to the games on Sunday, this, that and the other. So he deserves a lot of credit for what he did and the work he put in at that time. That was the first league title the club had, and it was in existence in over 20 years at that stage. And we had to wait, I think, about another 10 years until the first team under Paul Culleton delivered another league title, so fair play to Paul and that team. The second team around that time, then you had Joe Dollard and Chris Nestor, and they were successful too, but the club is always judged by the flagship team, which is the first team. And league titles, regardless of whether it was a schoolboy or schoolgirls, are not easily come by, so like when you do come by them, like they have to be sort of treasured. So fair play to everyone involved.